I want you to picture two things happening at the exact same moment. First, imagine a modern capital city, Tehran, just going completely dark.
And not a power outage.
No, not a power outage. I mean a digital void. No WhatsApp, no Instagram, no banking, and definitely no way to upload a video of what's happening right outside your window. It's a complete information blackout.
It's the digital equivalent of putting an entire country into solitary confinement.
Exactly. But then shift your focus. At that same moment, thousands of miles away, there's a warehouse. Maybe it's in the US, maybe a transit point somewhere in Europe. And you've got forklifts moving pallets of boxes.
And inside those boxes.
Inside is some of the most advanced consumer aerospace tech on the planet. And the entire goal is to get that hardware from that warehouse into the lockdown black box of Iran.
It really does sound like the plot of a spy thriller, doesn't it? But, I mean, this is the reality of the situation right now.
It is. And today we are doing a deep dive into the news that the Trump administration has secretly shipped about 6,000 Starlink terminals to Iran. We're going to be unpacking reporting from the Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg, Reuters, and some pretty harrowing data from human rights groups.
And we really need to look at this from three angles. First, the tech itself.
Yeah.
Why this specific satellite system is the tool to break a national firewall. Second, the logistics. I mean, how do you physically smuggle thousands of satellite dishes into a hostile country?
And the human cost.
And the human cost.
Yeah.
Because the people setting these up aren't just IT guys. They're risking decades in prison.
So let's start with the context. Why is this happening now? Starlink's been around for a bit. Why this sudden surge of 6,000 units in early 2026?
To get the timing, you have to look at the calendar.
Yeah.
Specifically, January 8, 2026. That's when everything changed.
The protests.
Right. But it's really important to understand why they started. This wasn't initially about political ideology. It was about survival.
The economy.
The Iranian currency, the rial, had been in absolute freefall for months. And by January, the economic pressure just became unbearable for the average person. We're talking about people watching their life savings just evaporate.
So the spark was pure economic desperation.
Exactly. But when people took to the streets on January 8th, the regime didn't just respond with riot police. They responded with what digital rights groups are calling a digital curfew.
I've heard that term. It sounds more organized than just, pulling the plug.
It is. In the past, they might have throttled the speed or blocked a few apps like Telegram. This time, according to the reports, they effectively just severed the connection to the global internet. They activated a national intranet.
So your phone still shows bars, but you can't get out.
Precisely. You can only access state-approved domestic sites. The outside world is just gone.
And that creates what we call the information fog.
And that fog is deadly. Without the internet, verification becomes almost impossible. We have data from the human rights activist news agency, they're a US-based group, and they're stating the confirmed death toll has surpassed 7,000 protesters since January.
7,000? That's a staggering number.
It's horrific. But here's the kicker. The Associated Press has been very careful to state that they cannot independently verify those figures.
Not because they don't believe them.
No, but because they physically cannot get the data out. The blackout is working. It's preventing the world from seeing the real scale of the violence.
Which brings us to the countermove, the Starlink terminals. The Trump administration and private activists deciding to, punch a hole in that fog. But I want to pause here and ask maybe the dumb question.
Please do.
Why Starlink? We've had satellite internet for decades. I remember those huge dishes from the 90s. Why is this the tech, the solution here? Why not just a VPN?
That's actually the most important question. A VPN, a virtual private network, is software. It's a tunnel. But a tunnel needs a road.
Right.
If the government cuts the fiber optic cables leaving the country or shuts down the cell towers, your VPN has nowhere to go. It's like having a fast car, but the bridge is out.
Okay, that makes sense. If the pipe is cut, software can't fix it.
Right. So you need a new pipe. That's where satellite comes in. But you asked, why Starlink? Why not the old school satellites?
Yeah, the ones that just sit way out there in space.
So traditional satellite internet uses geostationary or GEO satellites. They sit about 35,000 kilometers up. They stay in one fixed spot.
Right.
But because they're so far away, the signal is weak, the lag is terrible, and crucially for this story, they are sitting ducks.
Sitting ducks, how?
They're stationary targets. If you're an authoritarian regime and you want to jam that signal, you know exactly where to point your equipment. You just blast noise at that one spot in the sky, and you can drain out the signal for an entire city.
Okay, so traditional satellite is too slow and way too easy to block. How is Starlink different?
Starlink uses low Earth orbit satellites. LEO. They're only about 550 kilometers up, and they're not stationary. They're whizzing overhead at 17,000 miles per hour. That's a whole constellation of thousands of them constantly moving.
So from the perspective of the regime's jammers, the target is always moving.
Constantly. And this is where the hardware on the ground, the dish, really matters. The Starlink terminal isn't just a dumb bowl. It has what's called a phased array antenna.
Phased array. Okay, break that down for us.
Think of it like a spotlight versus a floodlight. A traditional dish just kind of listens to the whole sky. A Starlink dish creates a very tight directional beam that electronically tracks the satellite as it moves. It just locks on.
So it's less like a wide signal that anyone can mess with and more like a laser pointer connecting the dish to the satellite.
That's a great analogy. And because that beam is so tight and directional, it is incredibly difficult to jam from a distance. To jam it, the regime's forces practically have to be standing right next to the terminal.
So they can't just flip a switch in Tehran and kill the signal for everyone. They have to physically hunt the units down, one by one.
Correct. But there's one more technical layer that's vital. Usually a satellite bounces your signal down to a ground station nearby. But Iran doesn't have any Starlink ground stations, obviously.
Well, the government would never allow them.
So the Starlink satellites use laser links. They actually talk to each other in space. Your data goes up from Tehran, bounces from satellite to satellite in orbit, and then comes down at a ground station in a friendly country, maybe Turkey or a U.S. base in the region. It completely bypasses Iranian soil.
That is wild. It's literally an internet backbone in space.
It is. And the proof is, well, it's in the results. An Amnesty International researcher, R. Barr, told Reuters something that really stuck with me. He said that almost all of the authenticated videos coming out of Iran right now, the ones showing the killings, the wounded, they're being uploaded via Starlink.
So it's not just a theory, it's the only lifeline that's actually working.
It is the primary thread connecting the protest movement to the rest of the world.
Okay, so the tech works. The U.S. government is on board. We know President Trump confirmed he spoke to Elon Musk about it, called him very good at that kind of thing. And SpaceX has made the service free for Iranians.
Which is a huge deal. Removes the subscription cost hurdle.
But that leaves the massive elephant in the room problem of logistics. We're talking about 6,000 terminals. These aren't USD sticks. A Starlink kit is a box the size of a carry-on suitcase. How do you smuggle 6,000 suitcases into a lockdown country?
This is where the high-tech meets, ancient history. The reporting from Bloomberg on this is fascinating. They estimate that before this latest U.S. shipment, there were already about 50,000 terminals smuggled in over the last few years.
50,000. So the 6,000 is just a surge, a reinforcement.
It's a reinforcement, exactly. But the supply lines are already there, and there are two main routes. The first is through the Zagros Mountains, coming in from the Kurdish region of Iraq.
That is some seriously rugged, dangerous terrain.
It is. We are talking about smugglers using mules, navigating mountain passes at night to avoid patrols. They are strapping the cutting edge of 21st century aerospace engineering onto the backs of animals.
That mental image is incredible. And the second route?
The Persian Gulf, the southern route. This involves speedboats and dhows, those are the traditional wooden boats, making the run from places like Dubai. They land on the southern coast of Iran and offload the hardware.
It sounds like a massive operation, but I'm stuck on the economics of it. You said SpaceX made the service free. Great. But the hardware itself costs money. A kit is what, $500-600? If the economy has collapsed, who's paying for 50,000 of them?
That's a crucial point. The average protester can't afford this. The funding is largely coming from the Iranian diaspora people living in the U.S., Europe, Canada. They're pooling money, buying the units, and arranging the logistics. It's basically a decentralized crowdfunding effort for resistance hardware.
So you have this flow of boxes, mules in the north, speedboats in the south. They get into the country. Then what? I mean, it's not like you can just set it up on your balcony and relax.
No. And this brings us to the countermove. The risk for the user is just. It's extreme.
Yeah.
You have to understand, the Iranian regime isn't stupid. They know these things are coming in.
So what happens if you get caught with one?
The whole legal landscape shifted in 2025. Parliament passed a law that recategorized possession of unauthorized satellite devices. It used to be like having an illegal TV dish, maybe a fine. Now, it's prosecuted as espionage.
Espionage, that's a word that carries a lot of weight and a lot of time.
Up to 10 years in prison. And in the Iranian system, an espionage charge can sometimes lead to much worse outcomes.
So you have a device that could save your life by getting the truth out, but just having it could end your life as you know it.
Exactly. And the regime is actively hunting for them. Since they can't just jam the signal from a central point, They're using visual and signal hunting.
Okay, let's break that down. Visual hunting, I'm guessing that means drones.
Yes. The reports are saying security forces are flying drones over residential neighborhoods, specifically looking for that distinctive rectangular shape of the Starlink dishes on rooftops or balconies.
That is just dystopian. You're trying to get a signal out, and there's a robot flying overhead scanning your roof.
It is. And for the ones they can't see, they use RF radio frequency triangulation. They have vans with detection gear driving through cities. Even though the Starlink beam is tight, it still emits some radio waves. If a van gets close enough, it can detect the chatter.
So it's a constant game of cat and mouse. The user sets it up for 10 minutes, uploads a video, then has to hide it again.
Exactly. Shoot and scoot, as they say in the military. You set it up, upload your file, and then you immediately dismantle it and hide it.
Is the crackdown working, though? Are they finding them?
The numbers suggest they're finding a lot of them.
Yeah.
We have a quote from Brigadier General Hossein Rahimi. He's the head of the Economic Security Police. He stated that seizures of these terminals have increased by 881% this year.
881%. Wow, that sounds like a huge victory for the regime.
Well, yes and no. That number is a double-edged sword. It means their detection is getting better, sure, but it also implies that the volume of terminals coming in has just exploded. You can't seize 881% more contraband unless there is way more contraband to seize.
That's a great point. It reflects the scale of the smuggling just as much as the enforcement.
Right. And despite the drones, despite the prison threats, demand hasn't dropped. In fact, the way people use them has evolved. It's not just one person per dish anymore.
It's become a community thing.
It's becoming what you might call a digital tea house. One trusted person in a neighborhood takes the massive risk of housing the terminal. Then they set up a local Wi-Fi network, often hidden, secured, that their neighbors can connect to.
So one single terminal can liberate the information flow for 20, 30, maybe 50 people?
Exactly. It creates a pocket of connectivity. And if you have 50,000 of these pockets, suddenly that total blackout isn't so total anymore. It's more like Swift cheese. It's full of holes.
This really changes the power dynamic, doesn't it? For the last 20 years, we've kind of assumed that if a government wants to kill the internet, they can. They own the cables. But this tech, it bypasses the idea of a border entirely.
It does. It represents a fundamental shift in sovereignty over information. When the infrastructure is 550 kilometers up in the sky, owned by a U.S. company, and communicating with lasers, the local government loses its monopoly on reality.
But I have to play the skeptic again. Is this sustainable? You have a smuggling operation versus a state security apparatus. The state has, basically infinite resources. The smugglers have mules and crowdfunding. Can they actually win this?
That is the open question. It's an arms race. As the regime gets better jamming tech or develops better AI to spot dishes from drone footage, the smugglers have to adapt. Maybe they start disguising the dishes.
Like camouflage dishes.
It's already happening.
Yeah.
People are spray painting them, covering them with non-metallic cloth that lets the signal through but hides the white plastic. It's this incredible ingenuity born out of necessity.
It is.
But we shouldn't romanticize it too much. The risk is lethal. Every single time someone powers up a terminal, they're making a calculation. Is this video, this message, worth 10 years of my life?
That's a sobering thought. We get frustrated when our 5G drops to LTE. These people are risking everything for just a few megabits of upload speed.
It really puts the value of truth into perspective, doesn't it?
It does, and I think the involvement of the Trump administration adds another layer. This is statecraft now. It's not just a company selling a product. It's a government facilitating hardware to undermine another government's censorship.
Absolutely. It's a modern form of soft power. Or maybe you'd call it hard tech power.
Yeah.
Instead of dropping pamphlets from a plane, you're smuggling in routers. It sends a message that the U.S. views internet access as a strategic asset.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we're really looking at a turning point. We have the digital curfew trying to enforce total silence. And we have 6,000 new terminals, plus 50,000 existing ones, all trying to break it.
And in the middle are millions of regular people just trying to let the world know they're still alive.
It's a story we're going to have to keep watching, especially as the technology keeps evolving. If Starlink gets smaller or harder to detect, the balance tips even further.
Or if the regime finds a way to block the satellite uplinks entirely. The game is definitely not over yet.
Here's the final thought I want to leave you with. We often talk about technology as something that isolates us. Everyone's staring at their phones. But in this specific case, technology is the only thing connecting an entire population to the rest of humanity.
That's very true.
But the question is this. If low Earth orbit satellites can make a national internet blackout obsolete, have we reached the end of the era where a government can truly control information? Or will the digital surveillance, the drones, the detection vans, will that eventually win out? Can you ever truly hide when a government is looking down at you from the sky, just as you're looking up to that same sky for a signal?
That is the question to ponder.
Thanks for listening to this deep dive. Stay curious, stay informed. We'll catch you on the next one.